Has Vladimir Putin suffered cardiac arrest in the Kremlin, or is this just another nonsense rumor? Plus, Russia's offensive in Avdiivka, is it gaining even more steam? I'm going to get the answer to all of these questions right now. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's October 25th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, there are several major updates along the front lines, notably in 3 locations in and around Avdiivka. The first is along this northern prong of Russia's encirclement effort near the town of Krasnohorivka. You can see Russian forces again making a considerable advance. Let's see if we can get an approximate distance here. They've basically advanced from this intersection right here and made it all the way to this tree line, a distance of almost 700 meters. Again, it's not clear how long Russia can sustain this level of losses given the tremendous expenditures in armor and personnel, but these gains are real, and at this point it's unusual to see Russia make substantial measurable gains multiple times in 48 hours. Generally what we've seen in the past from Russia in places like Bakhmut, where when they're on the offensive there would be a pulse to their operations where they would launch ground attacks. There would be over the next 24 hours, they would consolidate their gains and then begin preparatory fires on the next objectives in front of their troops. And then once they did that, they would advance once again. So you would see every 48 hours or so a refresh cycle of their attacks. And here we're seeing continual pushes. Again, 750 meters, not a game-changing amount, but that's not the significance. The other notable change, of course, a small advance near Pervomaisky. You can see here literally just probably about 150 meters towards the town and not in a direction that's pushing an encirclement of Avdiivka itself, right? It's pushing actually away from Avdiivka. So it's not really facilitating a cutting off of Ukrainian forces. And I would say it's almost likely that this may be like a defense in depth type situation where Ukrainian forces are deliberately trading space for time. By systematically withdrawing through the town, they're drawing out Russian forces, forcing the Russians to drive into their mines. Again, if this feels very familiar, it is literally the playbook of Ukrainian forces defending Volodar during their successful defense of Volodar, and then the playbook of Russian forces who defended Zaporizhzhia from at least the bulk of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. But in Ukraine's favor, in the heart of Avdiivka itself, you can see they've driven Russian forces back away from this southern point here. Again, not a tremendous advance, but a sign that perhaps Russian forces are losing some of their momentum, at least in their ground. It seems like this is a heavily ground light infantry assault here. The armored forces seem like they're operating more along the prongs, and so it's a sign that perhaps Russia's losing some of its steam from an offensive perspective. The only other noteworthy change is outside of Bakhmut. You can see Russian forces making a small advance through this previously contested region. So just a slight withdrawal, again, probably about 150 meters, but a sign likewise that perhaps there's some softness in the Ukrainian defenses in and around Bakhmut as well. Looking at the combat map, you can see tracks pretty much with what we talked about. Note, if you see these blue shelling icons, they don't really mean anything. I think it's just a typo. It's talking about Russian aviation conducting airstrikes in the region. They likely mean to use a different icon. But you can see here their ground assaults exactly where we talked about. Northern prong, southern prong, west of Avdiivka into Avdiivka itself, some fixing attacks along the Zaporizhzhia region, concentrating as well in and around Bakhmut. Notably, you don't actually see them list the Bakhmut itself as being a source of these attacks, and of course some fixing operations in the north. Very typical, very predictable stuff, and it just goes to show that Russia's strategy isn't exactly original. It's not. It's just effective at scale is the biggest change here, and Russia doesn't have to be predictable, right? They have such an advantage still in quantity of material that they can afford to lose quite a bit in exchange for even marginal gains, at least so far. Again, long term, can Russia sustain it? Tough to say. Anyway, guys, if you've been living under a rock, you may know that energy drinks are like $5 a can at this point. It's really an expensive habit. And when I was in the military, trust me, I was addicted as much as anybody. That's why now that I'm out and I wanted to come up with an alternative, that's why I developed Strike Gum. I worked with a manufacturer here in Denver in the United States to produce a zero sugar energy drink gum alternative, right? So this is just a piece of gum. Each individual piece has 90 milligrams of caffeine and 100 milligrams of alpha GPC, no sugar, just 5 calories. And best of all, every pack supports Ukraine. I'm donating 50% of the profits from this first production run to charities that support Ukrainian civilians who've been injured or displaced in the conflict. So if you're interested, we have, of course, the pack if you want to try it out, but if you are someone with a serious energy drink habit, each piece works out to like 68 cents a piece. If you get the tray, which is actually on sale. We've also had literally a whole bunch of reviews, nothing but 5-star reviews, tons of reorders, which I really appreciate. And to me, it's a sign that, you guys like it and appreciate it. So check us out at strikegum.com. Okay, let's talk about the other news that you guys have all seen. This is Putin's heart attack. That's right. First off, I want to point out that the rumor was not actually that he had a heart attack. The rumor, reported by a Telegram account that purports to be a Kremlin insider, said that Putin was found in cardiac arrest, having collapsed in his flat in the Kremlin, that his bodyguards heard him fall, rushed in, took him immediately to basically a trauma center that they built within his presidential palace and revived him. Now, this is pretty preposterous. And the Telegram channel itself doesn't actually cite its own sources. It's spread a lot of what it calls conspiracy theories about Putin's health and public appearances. Also claims Putin uses a lot of body doubles, which I actually do believe. Putin is and ex-Soviet leaders are very, very cautious men. If you want to see just how cautious, there's actually a viral video of Kim Jong-un and Putin at a state dinner in which they are both served champagne, but neither one wants to be the first to drink it. And so they stare at each other, hold the champagne glasses after they've toasted, waiting for the other one to drink it, like trying to play a game of champagne chicken. It's utterly preposterous and but is symbolic or illustrative of just how paranoid these leaders are. Again, if you rule by force, and if you rule by force and assassination, then this is how it's gonna end. This is how you have to live your whole life. But what I want you guys to take away from this is that, first off, Putin, I still believe he is kind of ill. There's been enough sources that have reported these sort of things about an illness. There's also been enough visible signs of someone who's trying to conceal some level of illness. But what I think is a good case study is, remember a couple months ago, people also said Kadyrov was on the brink of death, that his kidneys were near failing and his long-term drug use had caught up with him. And then he posted video of him walking around a track in, somewhere in Chechnya, sort of quieting the rumors. So I think this is something similar where perhaps Putin is trying to sniff out weakness within the Kremlin by himself putting out these rumors that he's very ill, to see whose machinations start to roll out if they believe he's incapacitated or weak. Could literally just be some rumors for attention. It's the internet after all. But the point is that you should take this with the same level of credibility that you had for the Kadyrov rumors, which, while again, I believe Kadyrov probably has a chronic medical illness of some kind. There's millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people that live with chronic diseases. It doesn't mean that they are knocking on death's door. So that is probably all I would say. That is my stance on that right now. And that's really the biggest stories from the last 24 hours. As always, guys, thank you to our Colonel tier members from Combat Vet News, our Lieutenant tier members, and of course, all the members of Combat Vet News who support the channel, support what we do. I really couldn't do this without you guys. Me and the team, we appreciate you so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.